Brandon.
We doing here? I'll get the pulpit a second. Capital B.
Yeah.
Are you doing capital B?
Yeah.
3927.
2-7.
Yeah. Isn't that what I said?
I've been putting 7-2, I think.
Oh.
I think that's why. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Excuse me.
Oh, come on. All right, now I'm having trouble moving. Did you say is it touchscreen or not? It's not. Okay. You've been.
So this is the morning.
Oh, let's do it like that.
There we go. Beautiful.
All righty, good evening, good afternoon. Huh. Welcome you to the afternoon portion of today's Lord's Day. Our first song will be "A Lily of the Valley," number 8 in the book, otherwise called "I Have Found the Friend to Keep." I have found a friend in Jesus. He has gotten nothing to my soul. All I need to cleanse and make me holy. In sorrow is my comfort, in trouble is my stay. He tells me every care under to go. He's the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. He's a fairest of to my soul. Holy, all my griefs have taken, and all my sorrows. In temptation, he's my strong and mighty God. I have fallen and forsaken, and all my soul. From my heart and now he leads me by his power. Oh, all over the north may be and to so through Jesus I shall safely reach the goal. He's the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. He's the fairest worth 10,000 to my soul. He will never, never leave me, nor yet forsake me here, while I live by faith and do his blessed will. All the fire me, I've nothing now to fear. With his melody, my hungry soul shall fill. There's waking up to glory to see his blessed face, where rivers of daylight shall ever roll. He's the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. He's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. Next song before our prayer is the number 91 in the book, Because He Lives. Who sent his son? They call him Jesus. He came to love, heal and forgive. He lived and died to buy my pardon, and in His grace to prove my Savior lives. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth living just because He lives. How sweet to hold our newborn baby and feel the pride and joy He lives. But greater still, the harmless Spirit, His power and faith, uncertain day, because He lives, because He lives, I can face tomorrow, because He lives. All fear is gone, because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. And then one day, I'll cross that river, I'll find my final forfeit. And then His way to victory, I'll see the light of glory, and I'll know He reigns. Because He lives, I face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. Lord, thank you for such a wonderful, beautiful Thank you for allowing us to come back together as a family. We pray that you will glorify your children. And we do so each and every day. But you first and all, we pray for our Christians who want to whatever it takes, pray that you will help them through that. It is trials that you wish each and every day. We thank you for the vision that we have for that. We pray for the sake that you will enter it back to the homes or wherever they get to the step. Pray for peace in their lives. We pray that they will become a Christian. Pray for all of us. Pray that Jesus goes back. Pray for those who are sad. Pray for the families. They grieve and mourn. We pray that you have them grieve. A meaningful way. Allow others to be paid for grief. But at the same time, we expect to help them to be able to show them it would be so in all our lives. Every day of all those judgments. May we work with us each and every day. We can work with those if we not go with it. We enjoy the Son of Man, we trust. We pray. Look at the Lord. When you're born to Christ, you need the laws. You need to there. Ready, printed? With the base over it. Oh, stand. Eating, do all this stuff. Stand up. God. Get blood circulating. Singing the lost, yeah, time and free. One on the dust. Come on with me, let's agree. Word of the Master, praise today. Growing up on the mountain, bringing the water back again. To the fold, into the fold of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb, for sinners slain, for sinners slain. Lost and pointing to Jesus, so now we hearts that are sore. Leaning forth with the salvation, showing the path like nevermore. Going up on the mountain, bringing the water back again. Into the fold of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb, for sinners slain. Thus I would go on, this is our mercy, following Christ. Cheering the faith and praising the Father, pointing the hearts to Jesus the way, going apart upon the mountain, bringing the water into the fold of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb, for sinners slain.
Our song after the lesson will be "Oh, Heart Downward Sorrow," number 587 in your book.
You'll be making your way to Matthew chapter 7, and we're going to continue on the Sermon on the Mount. And this afternoon we're going to be looking at chapter 7, verses 7 through 11. And what we find there is a pretty familiar section, though that could really be said about just about any section of this great sermon. But He's going to be talking about asking, seeking, and knocking. And we're just going to consider a couple different areas in which this could be applied, what Jesus meant, what He meant for us in our lives today, and also what it means for those who aren't asking, seeking, or knocking. But look here at what He says. Again, Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 through 11. He says, "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened. Or what man is there among you who, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will he give him a serpent? If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will you or your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? Therefore, whatever you want men to do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets." Kind of threw that last verse in there. But so I think it's pretty clear that the main thing that Jesus is addressing here is prayer. And it's not the first time that He's addressed prayer in this sermon. He already did it back in chapter 6, verses 5 through 15. And that's where He was talking about our motives, praying with the right motives, to not stand on the street corners and be heard for your fancy, well thought out prayers to be heard. Jesus says that that's how you pray. If that's what motivates you to pray, the praise of men, then you have your reward. But it's from men and not from God. And He also gave us a template for our prayers and what they should look like. What's been called the model prayer, where He tells us things that we should be praying for, certain things that should find their way into our prayers, that God's will be accomplished, that He give us our daily needs, that we forgive others as we've been forgiven, and that we not be led into temptation. So He's already addressed prayer, but before people pray, people are going to know what kind of God they're talking to, who He is, what His character is, but specifically about how this prayer is going to be received. Is this prayer going to be received? Is it going to a God who is going to grudgingly receive it? Is He going to be like that judge in one of Jesus' parables who only conceded to that persistent widow because so that she could finally go away? Is that how God looks at us whenever we pray? And what Jesus shows us is that it's quite the opposite. If we ask, He says it will be granted. If we seek, we will find. If we knock, it will be open to us. And He asks these rhetorical questions. If your son asked for bread, would you give him a stone? If he asked for a fish, would you give him a serpent? He uses those questions to make the point that none of us would give those kinds of things to our children. None of us would respond to our children's requests that way. None of us would meet our children's requests with those kind of things. So it makes the point, again, in verse 11, if you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who seek Him? And so that's a very logical deduction. People are evil. We all sin, yet we happily grant our children's requests, and we give them good things. So how much more would your Father who doesn't sin how much more would he be willing to meet our requests? Same kind of line of reasoning he used at the end of chapter 6. You see that God takes care of the sparrows. You see that he crowns the lilies. So how much more do you think he's going to do for you? How much more do you think he's going to provide for you? So prayer is the most obvious use of this passage. It was probably what Jesus was directly talking about. But I think there's another way to apply this passage. You think about all of the people who, in this world, who staunchly oppose God. They oppose the very notion that he could exist, and obviously that Jesus could be a son, or that the Bible could be his word. And for the most part, and I say the most part because there are some cases otherwise, but those people are positioned that way because they've never tried. They've never thought for a second that God could exist. It's never entered their mind that the biblical narrative could be completely true and his word. They've never asked, they've never sought, and they've never knocked. The one thing that I would want from those people is just to simply try. Because if you don't seek God at all, he is not going to be revealed to you. If you never knock, if you never inquire about the truth that can set you free will never be known to you. They look up into the heavens, they look at God's creation, and they say, God, if you do exist, then why have you not shown yourself to me? Not knowing that they've wedged this mental barrier between them and the God that created them, professing to be wise, they became fools. They blocked by blocking the very notion of the possibility of God out of their minds. So again, if you're doing that, if you're not seeking him with an open and honest heart, then it's going to seem like he couldn't be real because you've positioned your mind to where he would never be real. But if you open up your mind and if you clear your heart of preconceived notions, then he very well may reveal himself to you. And I don't mean that in any kind of special, miraculous way, but he can reveal himself through the kinds of evidences that we talked about in class this morning. The evidence for his existence, the evidence that he is the God revealed in the Bible, the God that revealed through Jesus, who was killed and was raised from the dead, proving that he was and is the Son of God. So with all that in mind, here are just two things to leave us with from this text. The first is that when we approach God in prayer, we must approach him in faith. Of course, James said in James 1:5-8, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. So we find that if we want our request to be granted, that again we must ask in faith. Well, what was Jesus doing in Matthew chapter 7 as it relates to our prayers? He was building up our faith. Remember, faith has to be built on evidence. Faith has to be built by reason and logic. And again, as I noted, Jesus was reasoning with his audience. If you, a sinful person, wouldn't even think about giving or granting your child's request, or not granting your child's request if you could, how much more will your Father in heaven grant them for you? That was him giving us reasons to approach God in prayer with confidence. Again, it's not the case where we're bothering him with our prayers, but we should be able to approach him with confidence, knowing that he gladly will grant our requests. Of course, it means that he's not going to give us everything that we ask for. To bring it back to Jesus' analogy, you wouldn't grant your child's every request. The ones he mentioned were basic necessities. Some things that children ask for, probably most things that children ask for, they don't need. They're not necessary. It's kind of the same thing with him and us. He knows what we need and what we don't. We don't always know what's best for us, even though we like to pretend that we do. So some prayers, thankfully, are answered, but they're answered with a no. That's not because God is sick and tired of us coming to him time and time again, but he's happy to hear us the 1,000th time the same way that he was happy to hear us the very first time we ever contacted him in prayer. The other thing is this, simply just seek God in all that you do. And I know that's kind of vague, and it's pretty general, but seek him in all that you do. Notice these passages. Moses emboldened Israel when he told them in Deuteronomy 4:29, but from there you will seek the Lord your God, and you will find him if you seek him with all your heart, with all your soul. David wrote this to the Lord in Psalm 27:7-8, hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me and answer me. When you said, seek my face, my heart said to you, your face, Lord, I will seek. And that may sound odd to say that we should be seeking his face, but the word used for face is really a word that talks about the presence of something. So God would be saying to seek him in his presence, and David commits to do so, as we should too. In Jeremiah 29, God is telling Israel of their future captivity, but he tells them that they can still seek and they can still find him. But he gives a stipulation. It's the same one that Moses gave, Jeremiah 29:13. And you will seek me and you will find me when you search with me with all your heart. So it's not just that I can kind of flip a switch and say, okay, God, now I'm seeking you, now I'm following you. But as he said, it has to be genuine. You have to seek him with your heart, not just your lips. And then one more, Hebrews 11:6. But without faith, it is impossible to please him, for he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. So you have to believe that God exists, and that he rewards those who, as he said, diligently seeks him. Again, God's not going to do all the work. We have to ask of him, and he will answer. We have to seek him with our whole heart, and then only he'll be found. And we have to knock. And he, through his word, through his spirit, will show us the truth that can make us free. And for those who have sought him and have found him, we just have to continually be seeking him in all that we do, glorifying him in all that we do. Invitation is going to be offered at this time. If you feel that your faith is lacking, if you feel you haven't sought God in your life lately, it isn't too late to strengthen your faith. It isn't too late to seek him in all aspects of your life. If you have a need to respond this afternoon, ask that you will. While we stand and sing.
Oh. Will give you back. He shall find rest unto your soul. Divine consolation, healer gives, our power in nation. Be prevented. His peace is like a river, His love is like a song. His joy Busy all day long. Come unto me, all that heavy laden, I will give you rest. My yoke upon for and he shall find rest unto your soul.
I wish everybody had a happy, wonderful week. Before we are dismissed and say goodbye, let's sing a dismissal song. Another one of those that we've been trying to learn. This one, In His Time.
In His time, in His time, He makes all things beautiful. In His time, Lord, we show me every day, and your teaching me your way. You do just what you say in your time. In your time. You make all things beautiful in your time. Lord, my life to you I bring. May each song I have to sing, each to you a lovely in your
Father, thank you for the weekend. Thank you for the love we have with that. Thank you for the victory, church. That we're able to hear. Thank you for the, wherever we're coming